Hey, we're talking offline, trading texts as you were like jet setting across the United States from the West Coast to the East Coast today. You'd sent me this text while I was counting sheep, I believe. This is for the podcast today, and this is something you're saying. This has to do with tariffs and like what's going on, you think, in business right now. He goes, Orphe said, as businesses front load ahead of possible tariffs, you can get a one-time price bump. We're talking about the market here. If you get retaliation, you get another price bump. If consumers begin to suspect more price bumps are coming, then inflation expectancies drift higher, and that's when the real nasty trouble begins. More of my notes for the podcast. Here you go. Ready? If you get tariffs, no tariffs, tariffs, and then some tariffs, you get uncertainty. Businesses don't know how to hedge. Hiring pauses. Job growth slows. Add to that the Doge layoffs, and that's why we're heading into the next jobs report, which could be, in Dr. O's words, a banger. So Dr. O, that's a lot to process there, man. Hey, I want to talk about tariffs, and you know, we also want to talk about the Federal Reserve, and let's talk about the next jobs report. We just covered the most recent jobs report, which came out today, and was actually, you know, I think about what we thought it was going to be. It certainly was about what you thought it was going to be. It was up 151,000. But talk to me. Tariffs and the Fed. What are you thinking here, man?
Yeah, I mean, look, you read it, right? So my thoughts are we really don't want anything that could potentially cause prices to increase. You could get away with maybe a one-time price bump. I don't know if you can get away with retaliation and multiple price bumps.
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately, when consumers begin to expect that prices are going to be higher, you know, they can either substitute for cheaper goods, right? If they find them, or essentially their expectations, price growth expectations change, right? Inflation expectations change. And if people begin to suspect that prices will be higher in the future, what do? Well, they go and spend today. They spend a lot, and that actually causes prices to increase rapidly. And it becomes kind of a self-reinforcing mechanism where you end up with actual, higher inflation pressures. And so that's not what we want. I think that's what the Fed will be watching for.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. Changes in inflation expectations, is going to be what the Fed will be watching for. The other thing is, you also don't want essentially, the price increases to cause, right, the policy uncertainty to cause businesses to pause on investment and hiring decisions. Because if that happens collectively, you get less economic growth. You get less, fewer job gains.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think, I mean, the administration, I mean, certainly has come out of the box hot. You know, I mean, President Trump, he addressed Congress, I believe it was on Tuesday night this week. Markets have been, I mean, simply bonkers, and not in a good way. That the instrumentation that the president is trying to execute at this time is he's pulling a lot of levers, and he's pulling a lot of levers at the same time, and sort of like the in particular, like the tariffs to Mexico. Like, it did not get a lot of run. The story did not go as wide as, you know, as the headlines on tariffs at the beginning, that Trump pulled back on some tariffs to Mexico, categories of, of products to Canada and Mexico this week. I mean, do you think that this is maybe just a blip, that as these policies are basically being laid in, that you have overreactivity to what's occurring? Is it, I mean, I'm not.
Look, the markets always overreact one way or the other.
Right.
Right.
That's why I asked the question. I mean, it's like, hey, do you remember about a month ago we were talking about the future of AI. And what was the Chinese AI? Was it
DeepSeek?
DeepSeek. And all of a sudden it's like, holy cow, this is going to flip AI on its head. Well, it didn't. All right. It didn't. It temporarily caused, like, if you're holding NVIDIA, you're paying attention to the market that week, but then NVIDIA started to come back. Now, all stocks, in particular tech, in the last week really has, caught a shot to the chops. It's not been a good week, if you're a tech investor. But is it possible that we're just in this, like, that the market just doesn't get it yet, or doesn't see this sort of the same vision that the administration sees? Interpret it for me to whatever degree you feel like you can.
Well, I mean, look, I watched the new Treasury Secretary on CNBC this morning, and he said, "Hey, the tariffs tend to hurt the country with the surplus more than the country with the deficit." I don't know. I think we have a view as economists to think, that basically suggests that, less trade is actually bad for everyone. And so I guess we're going to have to find out if the decades and decades of economic research, prove to be wrong in this instance. But ultimately, I think when people know what they're dealing with, tariff or no tariffs, actually much better than not knowing how to prepare for the future. And so I think the policy uncertainty is a bigger problem for businesses
than the actual policy.
Than the actual policy. The fact that no one knows what's going to happen next and how to plan for the future.
That's what I'm thinking. And I was like, hey, I lean on you for the heavy lifting, but as I'm, just thinking about sort of business as I know it, that there are periods of uncertainty in any business. And in this case, because you're talking about, like, federal policy and that becomes international policy. So we just simply don't know. So if you're running a, hamburger stand, or if you're, running General Motors, that this is like, kind of have to see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, good talk. Always enjoy the conversation.